Hello, class. Welcome to Chapter 4, Communication Skills. Here we are doing this online. Can you imagine? Over a decade ago, people would be kind of curious, why the heck are you doing communication skills on an online class? You need to be in person. You need to be talking to somebody. But here I am talking to a microphone, and you're listening. Maybe you're listening. Maybe you're watching YouTube at the same time. Something else. But that's what this chapter is all about, is communication skills. And with the current technology, we're texting more. We're listening to podcasts now. The internet's at our fingertips. We're talking on the phone less. But a lot of these same rules and principles apply even with the technology advancements we're having. To get this started, I want to talk about the three fundamental types of questions. The last one we're not going to really talk about much, but really the difference between an open-ended and a closed-ended question. And I'm a big fan of an open-ended question because it stimulates conversation, where a closed-ended question is still very useful because it answers, if you need to know, do you want black, do you want white, or is it yes or is it no, then it could be very useful and it could be a tool to use. But if you start a conversation off with a yes or no or a either or, it's really limiting the conversation because it can only go one of two directions. Or if it was an open-ended question like, oh, what brings you in today? Now the customer or prospect has a ton of options of where they want to go with that. And when they ask you that, you can then ask another open-ended question or a closed-ended question to guide the conversation. But as a salesperson, we have the choice. And so what I might ask is, think about what kind of questions you're asking now. Like next time you get in a conversation with somebody and you ask them a question, just see if you can identify it. Are you asking open-ended questions or closed-ended? And then if you can really play around with it and say, okay, I'm only going to ask open-ended questions today. It'd be very interesting to see the different types of responses you get. And then maybe one day try a closed-ended. I think it'd be a really interesting experiment. I have to say from my personal experience that the open-ended questions really get you a lot of great information. And as a salesperson, we want to discover information so that we can solve problems for our customers. And open-ended can really help with that, especially if we don't know somebody very well. But even if we do know someone really well, things change. And the only way to find out about that change is to discover it firsthand. Now, listening. I like to talk about this because I think myself and pretty much most people I come in contact with, occasionally I'm very surprised when I find a really good listener. But for the most part, I think we can all be way better listeners. So here's a couple tips for you on being a better listener. And the first one is listening with all of your attention. That means put your cell phone away, turn it off, turn it on silent, and give somebody eye contact and just really give them attention. I think it's very rare that somebody gives you that these days. So it's something to think about. Are you really listening? Some ways that you can also help with listening is paraphrasing and repeating. So if somebody says something, you say it back to them. Because the only way you can say it back to them is if you are really listening. It's a really simple way to show someone you're listening. Instead of just, yeah, uh-huh, yeah, yeah, We all know that we just say those things sometimes. Where if you were to repeat it back of, oh, so what I hear you're saying is that you no longer want to live here, but you're looking at other places in Montana right now. And then they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. Monitoring nonverbal skills. So as a listener, we can nod, we can make nonverbals to show we're listening, but we can also read into what the speaker is doing. If the speaker's walking away from you, that means they want to leave or they're uncomfortable. If their arms are crossed, meaning their arms are across their chest, they're crossed on their chest, that means they might be angry or not comfortable. Where if somebody was open-armed or leaning back, their posture, their facial expressions. These are all things that are part of listening, right? It's not just what you hear, it's also what you see. A few others, making no assumptions. I think this is huge. Don't assume that everyone knows everything. A word that I dislike is obviously. If a salesperson goes up to me and, I'm buying a phone and they say, well, obviously you wouldn't want that one. Or obviously that one has the bad battery that exploded. And I may be, no, I didn't read the news. I didn't know. But I might be so, when I hear them say, obviously, it's like, oh, I should probably know this, so I'm going to pretend like I do know. Things like that could get you in trouble. So think about that. Are you assuming? If there comes a choice, whether in your products or services, if there's a choice, of what color to go with or with different options, don't assume you know what option they want. You want to make sure you make the right decision for them, and you're helping them. So you would want that clarification. Encourage them to talk. See how you just gave a little silence there? That is a good way of doing that, is give some breaks between talking. Here I am lecturing, so I'm not giving you many opportunities for that, but one of those opportunities is to be quiet and to ask questions. And pay attention. We talked about that with the cell phone, and here's a few more. Moving along, besides verbal speaking, pictures go a long way. Pictures are visual. We can often visualize things better than we can read them. We can visualize faster than we can read text. So, think about PowerPoints, think about sales presentations. They often have a ton of visuals and pictures because that's an easier way for people to understand something. Another great thing is stories, which are similar to a visual. Okay, take this for example. When you watch a movie, why do you watch a movie? You watch it because it transports you, it entertains you. You can sometimes see yourself in that movie, or that you're one of the characters in the movie. So if you could do that same thing while you're selling, which is come up with real life scenarios and stories that can connect with your possible prospect or customer, that's a huge, powerful thing. So for example, if I was a car salesperson, some stories I might think about are happy customers, or people who have found really, really great things out of their car because of an experience. For example, going on a road trip with their family, or how their car, got them through a snowstorm. These type of stories, these moments that were, very, very memorable, can go a long way, and other people love to share stories. Think about social media. That's all about sharing stories and events and things that are happening in our lives. So if you're able to do that through storytelling or sharing someone else's story, it's a really powerful way to draw in the customer and for them to listen and retain that information as well. They're going to be engaged. They're going to be connected. Here's a great article, by the way, to check out more about storytelling and how it activates different parts of the brain. People are more likely to remember. It's really fascinating. Something I like to do this for many of my students, because depending on your age, if you're just out of high school, you were in an institution where it was cool to not have good grammar. And unfortunately, in the real world, it might be cool for some people, but it's not going to be cool for everyone. I think about it this way, and this is my personal opinion, which is the way you dress. And some people say you should dress for the job that you want. And I wholeheartedly agree with that to this day. If you work in certain industries or you do certain things, like if you're a graphic designer, you're not going to wear a suit and tie to work, or you're a dog walker. I get that. I'm not arguing with that. There's definitely there's a time and a place for everything. And there's jargon or words that you use for certain industries that are okay. But in general, I don't think having good grammar will ever hurt you. So that's why I side more towards just going above and beyond, whether it be with grammar, the way you dress. I think it'll benefit you more than it'll hurt you, in my personal experience. But again, it depends on your industry, things like that. But credibility. We talked about trust. People are not going to trust you if you have slang and they're not used to it. They're going to say, okay, well, if this person doesn't have proper English, proper grammar, then who knows what else they don't know how to do, or who knows what else they're not doing correctly. And you might not think this, but depending on the person you're talking to, they could perceive it that way. Okay, we can't control what other people think about us, but we can control what we do and what we say. People like order. They like to be able to follow something. And if they have a hard time following along with you because you're going back and forth and you're talking about one thing and then you skip to the other thing, people want to know that you're going in an order that they can follow. You need to tell people directions before they can try an assignment. So the whole idea here is there a logical sequence? Is there an order of how you're going to say what you're going to say? So we're going to be doing this a lot with these sales call scripts. You're not going to start with, do you want to buy? You're going to start with hello, a greeting of some sort. And you're going to end with some sort of salutation, some sort of goodbye.